Walter Benjamin, a German philosopher and cultural critic, developed the concept of the author as a producer in his essay, The Author as Producer. In this essay, Benjamin argues that the role of the author should extend beyond the creation of artistic or literary works and encompass a more active and transformative engagement with society. Here's a brief summary of Benjamin's ideas on the author as a producer. Transformation of the author's role. Benjamin advocates for a shift in the traditional understanding of the author as a mere creator of artistic or intellectual works. He suggests that the author should actively participate in and contribute to the larger social and political struggles of their time. The author, according to Benjamin, should become a producer of social and political change through their work. Political commitment. Benjamin emphasizes the importance of political commitment and engagement in the author's work. He argues that literature and art should not be seen as isolated from the political realm but as vehicles for expressing and promoting revolutionary ideas. The author, as a producer, should use their creative abilities to challenge oppressive systems and contribute to the advancement of social change. Relationship between form and content. Benjamin highlights the significance of the relationship between the form and content of artistic or intellectual works. He suggests that the form should align with the political content and intentions of the author. By innovating and experimenting with new forms of expression, the author can disrupt established conventions and challenge the dominant ideologies of their time. Collaboration and collective production. Benjamin encourages collaboration and collective production as essential aspects of the author's role. He argues that the author should not work in isolation but actively engage with other artists, intellectuals, and workers. Through collaborative efforts, the author can contribute to the creation of a collective culture that challenges the individualistic and commodified nature of capitalist production. Cultural transformation. Benjamin views the author as a catalyst for cultural transformation. He suggests that by actively engaging with the material conditions of their time and addressing the needs and struggles of the working class, the author can contribute to the creation of a revolutionary culture. This culture, rooted in collective production and political commitment, can help pave the way for a more egalitarian and liberated society. Political journalism. Benjamin suggests that authors can engage in political journalism as a form of active participation in social and political struggles. For example, an author who writes critical articles or essays exposing social injustices, advocating for the rights of marginalized groups, or analyzing the underlying power structures can be seen as a producer of knowledge and a catalyst for political change. Literature is a tool for resistance. Authors can use their literary works to resist oppressive systems and ideologies. For instance, during periods of political repression, authors have often employed allegory, symbolism, and metaphors to convey messages that challenge authoritarian regimes or advocate for liberation. Works like George Orwell's 1984 or Alexander Solzhenitsyn's One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich serve as powerful examples of literature that expose and critique totalitarianism. Collaborative artistic projects. Benjamin encourages collaboration among artists and intellectuals. One notable example is the Russian avant-garde movement of the early 20th century, which brought together writers, painters, musicians, and filmmakers to create innovative and politically charged works. For instance, the collaboration between poet Vladimir Mayakovsky, artist Kazimir Malevich, and filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein resulted in the production of Proletkul, performances that fused poetry, visual arts, and theater to express revolutionary ideas. Participatory cultural initiatives. Benjamin highlights the importance of collective participation in cultural production. For example, the concept of cultural factories emerged in the 1960s and 1970s, where artists, intellectuals, and workers came together to create art, music, and literature that addressed social issues. These initiatives aim to break down the barriers between producers and consumers of culture, fostering active engagement and collective creativity. Artistic interventions in public spaces. Benjamin argues that authors can use public spaces as sites for artistic intervention and political expression. Street art, graffiti, and public performances can be seen as examples of authors as producers reclaiming and transforming urban spaces. These artistic interventions often challenge mainstream narratives, question authority, and provide alternative visions of society. Documentary filmmaking. Authors can engage in documentary filmmaking to shed light on social and political issues. By capturing real-life stories, authors can use the medium of film to raise awareness, challenge prevailing narratives, and advocate for change. For instance, documentaries like Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11, or Ava DuVernay's 13th, examine political and social systems, offering critical perspectives on topics such as war, racism, and mass incarceration. Community organizing and activism. Authors can actively participate in community organizing and activism, utilizing their platform and influence to mobilize and inspire others. Through speeches, public appearances, and advocacy work, authors can amplify the voices of marginalized communities and contribute to social justice movements. For example, Angela Davis, a writer and activist, played a pivotal role in the civil rights movement and continues to be a prominent figure in the fight against racism and systemic oppression. Literary collectives and alternative publishing. Authors can form literary collectives or engage in alternative publishing practices that challenge the dominance of mainstream publishing houses and promote diverse voices and perspectives. These initiatives can create spaces for marginalized authors to share their stories and ideas. One example is the Combahee River Collective, a black feminist collective that published their groundbreaking statement in 1977, highlighting the intersections of race, gender, and class oppression. Participatory theater. Authors can explore participatory theater practices that actively involve the audience in the creative process and encourage dialogue and reflection. This form of theater blurs the boundaries between performers and spectators, fostering a collective experience and generating discussions on social issues. Augusto Boal's Theater of the Oppressed is a notable example, where participants engage in interactive performances to address power dynamics and explore transformative possibilities. Digital media and online activism. With the advent of digital media and online platforms, authors can leverage these tools to engage in activism and reach wider audiences. Through social media, blogs, podcasts, and online publications, authors can disseminate critical perspectives, mobilize support, and participate in public discourse. Prominent authors such as Roxane Gay and Ta-Nehisi Coates utilize these platforms to address social issues, share personal experiences, and advocate for marginalized communities. Public intellectualism. Authors can take on the role of public intellectuals, engaging in public debates, giving lectures, and writing opinion pieces that address social, political, and cultural issues. They can contribute their expertise and critical insights to shape public discourse and challenge dominant narratives. Prominent public intellectuals like Noam Chomsky and Naomi Klein have utilized their platform as authors to analyze and critique systems of power and advocate for social justice. Grassroots organizing through literature. Authors can actively engage in grassroots organizing by using literature as a tool for mobilization and consciousness raising. They can create reading groups, workshops, or literary events that bring together communities to discuss and reflect on social issues. By encouraging critical thinking and dialogue, authors can facilitate collective learning and empower individuals to take action. This approach is exemplified by initiatives such as community book clubs focused on social justice themes. Countercultural movements. Authors can be instrumental in countercultural movements that challenge mainstream values and promote alternative ways of living. For example, during the Beat Generation in the 1950s and 1960s, writers like Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, and William S. Burroughs used their works to critique conformity and consumerism while advocating for individual freedom and spiritual exploration. Their writings inspired a countercultural movement that questioned societal norms and influenced subsequent generations. Literary activism and solidarity. Authors can engage in literary activism and express solidarity with marginalized communities through their writing. They can use their platform to amplify marginalized voices, advocate for social justice, and raise awareness about specific issues. For instance, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's novel, Half of a Yellow Sun, sheds light on the Biafran War in Nigeria, using fiction to explore historical events and create empathy for the affected communities. Art as protest and resistance. Authors can use various forms of art as a means of protest and resistance. This can include visual art, poetry, performance art, or music that directly challenges oppressive systems, institutions, or ideologies. Artists like Ai Weiwei, a Chinese contemporary artist and activist, utilize their artwork to critique authoritarianism, human rights violations, and censorship. Here are some basic examples to illustrate Walter Benjamin's concept of the author as a producer. A novelist writing a book that addresses pressing social issues. Imagine a novelist who writes a book highlighting the experiences of marginalized communities or shedding light on systemic injustices. Through their work, they use storytelling as a means to provoke empathy, challenge societal norms, and inspire readers to take action for social change. This author goes beyond merely entertaining readers and instead uses their creative output as a tool for raising awareness and promoting dialogue. A poet organizing poetry readings in underserved communities. Consider a poet who organizes poetry readings in neighborhoods with limited access to cultural events. By bringing poetry directly to these communities, the poet becomes a producer of cultural experiences, providing a platform for expression, connection, and empowerment. This author actively engages with the community, encouraging participation, and using poetry as a medium to address local concerns and foster a sense of collective identity. A playwright collaborating with a marginalized theater group. Picture a playwright who collaborates with a theater group composed of individuals from marginalized backgrounds. Together, they create a play that amplifies the voices and experiences of those often marginalized or ignored by society. Through this collaboration, the author becomes a producer of theater that challenges dominant narratives, promotes inclusivity, and serves as a catalyst for social dialogue and change. An essayist writing articles for a grassroots publication. Imagine an essayist who writes articles for a grassroots publication focused on social justice issues. Through their writing, the author becomes a producer of knowledge and analysis, providing critical insights into complex societal problems. By contributing to this publication, the author engages in grassroots organizing, informing readers, and inspiring collective action. A photographer documenting protests and social movements. Consider a photographer who uses their camera to document protests, demonstrations, and social movements. Through their visual storytelling, the photographer becomes a producer of images that capture the spirit of resistance, expose injustices, and inspire others to join the cause. Their photographs become a powerful tool for raising awareness, sparking conversations, and mobilizing support for social and political change. A children's book author promoting inclusivity and diversity. Imagine a children's book author who creates stories featuring diverse characters from different backgrounds, cultures, and abilities. Through their books, they become producers of literature that promotes inclusivity, challenges stereotypes, and fosters empathy and understanding among young readers. By actively shaping the content of their books, the author influences the values and perspectives children encounter, contributing to a more inclusive and equitable society. A journalist investigating corporate corruption. Consider a journalist who investigates and exposes corporate corruption through in-depth investigative reporting. By uncovering and publicizing unethical practices, they become producers of journalistic work that holds powerful entities accountable and informs the public about systemic issues. The author's investigative efforts contribute to a more informed citizenry and may even lead to legal and regulatory actions against corrupt corporations. A songwriter creating politically charged music. Imagine a songwriter who writes and performs music with politically charged lyrics, addressing social issues such as inequality, war, or environmental degradation. Through their music, they become producers of art that inspires reflection, provokes thought, and mobilizes listeners to engage with and take action on pressing social concerns. The songwriter's compositions serve as a means of expression and a platform for social commentary. A playwright engaging with community theater. Consider a playwright who collaborates with a community theater group to create performances that reflect the lived experiences and challenges faced by the local community. Through this collaboration, the playwright becomes a producer of theater that gives a voice to community members, stimulates dialogue, and facilitates collective self-expression. The author's involvement with community theater helps empower individuals and fosters a sense of ownership and agency within the community. A blogger providing analysis and commentary on political events. Imagine a blogger who writes insightful and critical analysis of political events, policies, and social movements. Through their blog posts, they become producers of online content that educates and engages readers in political discourse. The author's perspectives and commentary contribute to a more informed public, encouraging readers to think critically about current events and participate in democratic processes. An academic author publishing research on social issues. Imagine an academic author who conducts research on social issues such as poverty, education inequality, or healthcare disparities. Through their scholarly work, they become producers of knowledge that informs policymakers, practitioners, and the general public. By publishing their research in academic journals or presenting at conferences, the author contributes to the body of evidence and ideas that can influence policies and social interventions. A novelist organizing a literary festival. Consider a novelist who takes the initiative to organize a literary festival in their community. By curating and coordinating the event, the author becomes a producer of a cultural gathering that celebrates literature, promotes literacy, and encourages dialogue between authors and readers. The festival provides a platform for authors to showcase their work, engage with audiences, and foster a love of reading and storytelling. A playwright facilitating workshops on social justice theater. Imagine a playwright who conducts workshops on social justice theater, where participants explore the intersection of theater and activism. Through these workshops, the author becomes a producer of creative spaces that empower individuals to use theater as a tool for social change. Participants learn techniques for creating theater that addresses social issues, stimulates critical thinking, and encourages dialogue within their communities. A nonfiction author speaking at community events. Consider a nonfiction author who actively participates in community events, such as panel discussions, conferences, or public lectures. By sharing their expertise and insights on relevant topics, the author becomes a producer of intellectual discourse that engages community members in conversations about social, political, or environmental issues. Their presence and contributions add depth and perspective to community discussions and contribute to collective learning. An author mentoring aspiring writers from marginalized backgrounds. Imagine an established author who takes on the role of a mentor and supports aspiring writers from marginalized backgrounds. Through their mentorship, the author becomes a producer of opportunities for aspiring authors to develop their skills, gain confidence, and access networks in the literary world. By nurturing and guiding emerging voices, the author contributes to greater inclusivity and diversity within the literary landscape. These additional examples highlight how authors can extend their roles as producers by engaging in academic research, organizing cultural events, facilitating workshops, participating in community discussions, and mentoring aspiring writers. Through these activities, authors can contribute to knowledge creation, community building, skill development, and empowerment, thereby fostering social and cultural transformation.